The United States has been deeply involved in seeking a peaceful resolution to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. For years, American diplomats have worked tirelessly, navigating the complex and often treacherous waters of international diplomacy. Their goal has always been to bring an end to the violence and suffering that has plagued the region. However, recent statements by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio have sent shockwaves through the international community. His words have reverberated not just in the halls of power in Washington, but across the globe, from European capitals to the streets of Kyiv. Rubio issued a stark warning. The U.S. will abandon its peace efforts in Ukraine if significant progress is not made within days. This ultimatum is not just a diplomatic maneuver, it is a clear signal of the growing impatience within the U.S. government. The stakes are incredibly high, and the clock is ticking. This ultimatum reflects the growing frustration within the Trump administration over the lack of progress in negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Despite numerous rounds of talks, the conflict has dragged on with little to show in terms of tangible results. The administration's patience is wearing thin, and Rubio's statement is a manifestation of that frustration. The U.S. has been a key mediator in the conflict, investing significant diplomatic capital in trying to bring both sides to the negotiating table. American envoys have shuttled back and forth, attempting to bridge the deep divides that separate Ukraine and Russia. Their efforts have been tireless, but the road to peace has been fraught with obstacles. Rubio's warning signals a potential turning point, raising questions about the future of U.S. involvement and the broader implications for peace in the region. If the U.S. were to pull back, it could leave a vacuum that might be filled by other, less neutral actors, potentially complicating the situation even further. The world now waits anxiously to see if this deadline will spur action or further escalate tensions. The coming days will be crucial as all eyes turn to the key players in this high-stakes drama. Will they rise to the occasion, or will the region descend into deeper chaos? Only time will tell. The conflict in Ukraine, now in its third year, has become a protracted and bloody stalemate. Despite numerous ceasefire agreements and rounds of negotiations, neither side has been able to secure a decisive victory. The fighting continues, claiming lives and displacing millions. The Minsk agreements, signed in 2015, were intended to pave the way for a lasting peace. However, they have been repeatedly violated, and a full ceasefire has proven elusive. The recent breakdown of the ceasefire on energy infrastructure further illustrates the fragility of any agreement. The conflict has become entrenched, with both sides seemingly resigned to a war of attrition. The Trump administration, initially hopeful for a swift resolution to the conflict, has grown increasingly impatient with the lack of progress. Rubio's warning reflects this frustration and suggests a potential shift in U.S. policy. The U.S. has already imposed several rounds of sanctions on Russia in response to its actions in Ukraine. These sanctions have targeted key sectors of the Russian economy, including finance, energy, and defense. However, they have yet to persuade Moscow to change course. The Trump administration is now considering escalating its economic pressure campaign. This could include imposing secondary sanctions, which would target companies and individuals doing business with Russia. Additionally, the U.S. may impose tariffs on Russian goods. Even as peace talks sputter, the human cost of the conflict continues to mount. Recent missile attacks serve as a chilling reminder of the ongoing violence plaguing Ukraine. On April 13, 2025, a Russian ballistic missile struck the city of Sumy. The attack killed 34 civilians, including 2 children, and injured 117 others, including 15 children. Just days later, on April 18, 2025, another missile attack targeted Kharkiv, killing 1 person and wounding 67. These attacks have drawn international condemnation and underscored the urgency of finding a peaceful solution. They highlight the devastating impact of the conflict on innocent civilians and the need for a lasting ceasefire. Section 5. A glimmer of hope, the U.S. peace plan and talks in Paris. Despite the escalating tensions and the looming deadline set by Rubio, there are glimmers of hope for a diplomatic solution. The atmosphere in Paris is charged with both anticipation and caution. The U.S. has presented a peace plan outline to both Ukraine and Russia. This plan, meticulously crafted, aims to address the core issues fueling the conflict. While the details remain confidential, Sources close to the negotiations hint at a multifaceted approach that includes security guarantees, economic aid, and political reforms. The plan has reportedly received an encouraging reception during talks in Paris. Diplomats from both sides have shown a willingness to engage in constructive dialogue. Rubio himself has been directly involved in these efforts, tirelessly working behind the scenes to bridge the gap between the conflicting parties. Having discussed the plan with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Rubio has emphasized the importance of Ukrainian sovereignty and territorial integrity, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Lavrov's involvement is crucial, as Russia's stance will significantly influence the outcome of these talks. The U.S.-authored plan is seen as a potential framework for a negotiated settlement, offering a structured path towards de-escalation and peace. Though significant challenges and disagreements remain, the ongoing dialogue in Paris represents a critical step forward. Its success hinges on both sides' willingness to compromise and find common ground. The world watches with bated breath, hoping that this glimmer of hope will turn into a lasting peace. Section 6. Conflicting voices, optimism, and ultimatums within the Trump administration. While Rubio's warning has cast a shadow over the peace process, there are conflicting views within the Trump administration itself. Vice President J.D. Vance has expressed cautious optimism about the prospects for a negotiated end to the war. Vance's more hopeful stance suggests internal divisions within the administration regarding the best approach to the conflict. This difference of opinion reflects the complexity of the situation and the difficult choices facing U.S. policymakers. The coming days will reveal whether the administration can present a united front and whether Rubio's ultimatum will be carried out. Section 7. Economic ties progress on the U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal. Even as the U.S. contemplates its next move in the peace process, there are notable developments in U.S.-Ukraine economic relations. The two countries recently signed a memorandum of intent, paving the way for a broader economic partnership agreement and the establishment of an investment fund dedicated to Ukraine's post-conflict reconstruction. This agreement marks significant progress after a previous attempt at a similar deal faltered due to disagreements between President Trump and President Zelensky. The new agreement signals a commitment to strengthening economic ties and supporting Ukraine's long-term recovery, regardless of the outcome of the peace talks. Section 8. The European factor, a continent caught in the crossfire. The conflict in Ukraine has significant implications for Europe, both politically and economically. The ongoing war has disrupted trade routes, affected energy supplies, and created a refugee crisis that has put immense pressure on neighboring countries. European nations are grappling with the challenge of balancing their support for Ukraine with the need to maintain stability within their own borders. The European Union has also imposed sanctions on Russia, albeit with less severity than the U.S. These sanctions target key sectors of the Russian economy, including finance, energy, and defense. However, the effectiveness of these measures is a topic of ongoing debate among EU member states, with some arguing for stricter enforcement, while others worry about the economic repercussions for Europe itself. Rubio has indicated that any peace deal would likely involve the lifting of these sanctions, a move that would require careful consideration and coordination among European nations. The prospect of lifting sanctions is contentious, as it could be seen as a concession to Russia, potentially undermining the EU's stance on international law and sovereignty. Furthermore, the U.S. is considering providing security guarantees to Ukraine as part of a peace agreement. This would involve a significant commitment of resources and could lead to an increased military presence in Europe. Such a move would necessitate close cooperation with NATO allies and could reshape the security landscape of the continent. Such a commitment would have far-reaching consequences for European security and could potentially strain relations with Russia. The delicate balance of power in the region could be disrupted, leading to heightened tensions and the risk of further conflict. Europe is caught in a delicate balancing act, seeking to support Ukraine while also managing its own complex relationship with Russia. The continent must navigate a path that upholds its values and commitments while avoiding actions that could escalate the situation further. The decisions made in the coming months will have lasting impacts on the future of Europe and its role on the global stage. Section 9. The stakes are high. The potential fallout of abandoned negotiations. The U.S.'s potential withdrawal from peace negotiations carries significant risks and uncertainties. If the U.S. abandons its mediating role, the fragile peace process could collapse entirely, leading to an escalation of the conflict. This could have devastating consequences for Ukraine, further entrenching the country in violence and instability. Moreover, a failure to achieve a negotiated settlement would be a significant setback for the U.S., undermining its credibility as a global peacemaker and potentially emboldening other actors to challenge the international order. The coming days will be critical in determining the future of Ukraine and the U.S.'s role in shaping it.